Before you tell me this is just another bitter take on women, understand that what I'm revealing comes from watching this pattern destroy hundreds of relationships. I'm not talking about one toxic person. I'm talking about a psychological mechanism that runs so deep, most people never see it. And the man who loves her most, he never had a chance. You see, there's a program running in the human mind that makes us devalue what's easily available and crave what feels uncertain. It's not conscious. It's not a choice. It's wired into our psychology from thousands of years of evolutionary survival. And when it comes to attraction, this program creates a devastating paradox. The man who shows up consistently, who loves deeply, who makes himself available becomes invisible. Not because he's doing something wrong, because he's doing everything right in a system that punishes certainty. Let me destroy the myth first. You've been told that if you're kind, loyal, present, and loving, she'll choose you. That being a good man is enough. That devotion earns devotion. It's a beautiful lie that keeps you trapped in a cycle of giving more while receiving less. The uncomfortable truth is this. Her mind doesn't register safety as attraction. It registers it as background noise. The man who loves her most becomes the emotional equivalent of furniture. Always there, reliable, ignored. Let me break down the first layer of this. Genetics. Your brain and hers were shaped in an environment where uncertainty meant danger. Yes, but it also meant opportunity. Resources were scarce. The best mates were competed for. The ones who came easily, who stayed easily, who showed all their cards weren't the prize. They were the backup plan. This created a psychological filtering system that still runs today, even though we're no longer living in caves. Her attraction mechanism is literally programmed to respond to scarcity signals. The moment you become abundant in her life, predictable, fully known, that mechanism stops firing. You become safe. And safe is the opposite of the chemical cocktail her brain calls attraction. I knew this woman once. Amazing person. Dated a man who worshipped her. Brought her flowers every week. Planned thoughtful dates. Listened to every word. Checked in constantly. Made her the center of his world. She complained about him endlessly. Too available. Too eager. Too much. She couldn't explain why she felt nothing for him. Meanwhile, she was obsessing over a guy who barely texted back, who she saw once a month, who gave her breadcrumbs of attention. That man lit her up, made her feel alive. She'd spend hours analyzing his messages, wondering what he meant, trying to decode his interest. The devoted man? She analyzed nothing. There was nothing mysterious to decode. He was an open book, and she was bored. But here's where it gets really twisted. The expectations versus reality gap. Women are fed a narrative their entire life about what they should want. Stability, kindness, a good man who treats them well. They believe this narrative. They genuinely think they want the devoted man. So when he shows up and offers everything they've been told to desire, their conscious mind says yes while their subconscious screams no. This creates an internal war. She thinks something's wrong with him because she doesn't feel what she's supposed to feel. But nothing's wrong with him. The problem is the gap between what her conditioning says she should want and what her ancient wiring actually responds to. Time and again, I see women in therapy, in conversations, online, asking the same question. Why don't I feel anything for the good guy? They're genuinely confused. They list his qualities. He's everything on paper, but there's no spark, no butterflies, no obsession. They feel guilty about this. They try to force it. They stay in relationships with men they respect but don't desire, hoping the feeling will grow. It rarely does, because respect and attraction are not the same circuit in the brain. You can't think your way into chemistry. Here's the darkest truth about this dynamic. The man who loves her most becomes her emotional punching bag. Not because she's evil, because he's safe. She knows he won't leave. His love is guaranteed. So all the anxiety, frustration, and unresolved trauma she carries gets dumped on him. the tests, the complaints, the moving goalposts, the criticism. She's not trying to destroy him. She's unconsciously trying to create the uncertainty her brain craves. If she can push him, test him, make him prove himself over and over, maybe he'll feel less safe. Maybe he'll become the challenge she needs him to be to feel attraction. But it doesn't work. It just breaks him slowly. You see, her dissatisfaction isn't about you. It's about her. She's running from something inside herself, a void that existed before you arrived and will exist after you leave. Many people experience this pattern where they chase their own happiness through external validation. They think if they just find the right person, the right relationship, the right circumstances, they'll finally feel complete. But completeness doesn't come from another person. It comes from within. And until she stops using relationships as a band-aid for unresolved pain, no man will ever be enough. Not you. Not anyone. There's a mechanism I call the fantasy addiction. She falls in love not with who you are, but with who she imagines you could be, what the relationship could become, the life you could build. In the beginning, when you're still unknown, her mind fills in the gaps with projection. You're perfect because you're incomplete. She doesn't know your flaws yet, your limits, your humanity. You're a canvas for her hopes. But as time passes and reality sets in, you stop being the fantasy. You become just a man. Flawed, limited, human. The disappointment she feels isn't about you failing. It's about reality killing her projection. She wanted a fairy tale. You offered her a real person. To her brain, that feels like loss. I've watched this destroy men who gave everything. They internalize her dissatisfaction. They believe if they just do more, be more, fix more, she'll finally be happy. They lose themselves in the process. Stop seeing friends. Abandon hobbies. Reshape their entire identity around her needs. And it's never enough. Because the problem isn't solvable through effort. You can't fix a pattern that's rooted in her psychology, not your behavior. You can't love someone into healing wounds you didn't create. You can't become enough for someone who doesn't feel enough inside themselves. But here's the paradox that makes this so painful. The moment you pull back, the moment you stop chasing, the moment you prioritize yourself, her interest spikes. Suddenly you're less available, less predictable, less safe. Her attraction mechanism activates. She reaches out. She tries to pull you back. Not because she suddenly realized your value. Because you triggered the scarcity response. You became uncertain again. And if you come back, if you fall for it, if you return to being the devoted man, the cycle repeats. She loses interest. You become furniture again. It's a loop that destroys you both. The moving goalpost mechanism is brutal. You think she wants X. You give her X. She now wants Y. You give her Y. She's upset you don't give her Z. Z was never mentioned before. But now it's critical. Now it's proof you don't really care. You're not crazy. The goalposts do move. Not because she's testing you, though that's part of it. Because she's searching for something outside herself that she can only find within. She's trying to fix an internal problem with external solutions. It can't work. So nothing you do will ever land. Nothing you give will ever fill what's missing. There was this period where I watched a friend go through this. He bent himself into shapes, trying to understand what she wanted. Read books on communication. Went to therapy. Changed his entire approach to conflict. Learned her love language. Planned more dates. Gave more space. Whatever she said was the problem, he fixed. For 5 years, he fixed. And for 5 years, she found new problems. New reasons to be unhappy. New ways he was failing. He thought he was bad at relationships. He thought something was fundamentally broken in him. When they finally ended, she was with someone new within weeks. And complained about the new guy within months. Same patterns. Different man. He wasn't a problem. He was just the person standing there when she projected her unresolved issues onto someone. Many people experience the identity erosion that comes from loving someone who can't receive it. You start strong, knowing who you are, what you want, what you stand for. But slowly, trying to become what she needs, you lose those boundaries. Your identity becomes reactive. You're not choosing your life. You're responding to her moods, her needs, her dissatisfaction. You wake up one day and don't recognize yourself. Everything you do is calculated to keep the peace, to make her happy, to avoid the next complaint. You're not living. You're managing. And it's exhausting. The test is simple. Ask yourself, do I feel like nothing I do is ever good enough? Have I lost myself trying to please her? Am I walking on eggshells, afraid the next thing I say or do will be wrong? Have the goalposts moved so many times I've lost track of what she actually wants? Do I feel crazy, questioning my own reality because what she says and what she does don't match? If you answered yes to most of these, you're not in a relationship. You're in a pattern. And the pattern won't change because you change. It changes when she does the internal work to heal what's driving the dissatisfaction. Here's what you need to understand. Her inability to choose the man who loves her most isn't about you being insufficient. It's about her running from herself. The devoted man represents everything she says she wants but can't actually feel because her psychology is wired for chase, uncertainty, and validation through conquest. You trigger her wound that says, if he loves me this easily, I must not be worth the chase. You remind her of the gap between who she believes she should be and who she fears she is. Your love becomes evidence of your poor judgment rather than proof of her worth. This doesn't mean all women are like this, but enough follow this pattern that you need to recognize it. And here's the liberation. It's not your job to fix it. You can't love someone into wholeness. You can't heal someone who won't do the work themselves. You can't be enough for someone who doesn't feel enough inside. Her happiness is her responsibility. And until she takes that responsibility, she'll remain unhappy no matter what you do, who she's with, or what she has.